For 3 weeks, a mysterious stranger bought her expensive coffee every single day. She didn't know who they were. She didn't know why they chose her. But those forgotten orders became the lifeline she desperately needed. And when she finally discovered the truth, that her anonymous benefactor was a billionaire CEO, everything she thought she knew about loneliness, connection, and second chances was about to change forever. But would their different worlds destroy what accidentally began, or prove that some mistakes are actually destiny? Before we dive into this story, I want to ask something from you. If you believe in the kind of kindness that changes lives, would you take just a moment to hit that like button? And if you enjoy stories that remind us genuine connection still exists in this world, consider subscribing. It would mean so much to me, and it helps me continue sharing these stories with people who need them. Thank you for being here. Now, let me take you back to where it all began, to a corner table in a crowded café, where a woman sat drowning in spreadsheets and exhaustion, to a billionaire in the back of a town car, too distracted to remember something as simple as picking up his coffee, and to the moment when those two separate worlds intersected in the most unexpected way. Because sometimes the universe knows exactly what it's doing when it makes a mistake. Sometimes a forgotten order finds precisely the person who needs it most. And sometimes two people who feel utterly alone discover they've been searching for each other all along. This is their story. A story about accidental gifts, anonymous notes, and the courage it takes to choose connection over fear. Isla Harper had been staring at the same spreadsheet for 3 hours, and the numbers still refused to make sense. Her eyes burned. Her shoulders ached. The cafe hummed with afternoon conversation around her, but she barely heard it anymore. This was her reality. 12-hour days in a corner booth, surviving on the cheapest coffee on the menu. The small cup of black drip coffee beside her had gone cold an hour ago. She couldn't afford another one. Her apartment was too quiet to work in. So she came here, day after day, ordering the same cheap coffee and working until closing. Then something appeared. A tall cup topped with caramel drizzle and foam. Condensation forming on the sides. It looked expensive. "Excuse me," she called out to barista. "I didn't order this." "Caramel macchiato, extra shot, oat milk?" "That's not mine." The barista scanned the cafe. Must have been a mobile order that didn't get picked up. Happens sometimes. "It's paid for. You can have it if you want, or I can toss it." Isla stared at the drink. "I'll keep it." "Seems wasteful otherwise." She took a sip. Perfect. Sweet. Rich. For the first time in weeks. She smiled. Small victories. She had no idea that across the city, the man who forgot that coffee was about to forget something else. To stay away. Across the city, Adrian Cross sat in the back of a town car. Phone pressed his ear, half listening to his CFO drone, on about quarterly projections. "Adrian, did you hear me? The board has concerns." He rubbed his temples. "Another 18-hour day, nearly done. The board will follow my lead. They always do." He ended the call without goodbye. His phone buzzed immediately. Order ready for pickup. The coffee he'd ordered out of habit and completely forgotten about. He frowned. The meeting had run long. He was already 20 minutes away from that cafe, heading to another appointment. He dismissed the notification. It was just coffee. Someone else's problem now. What he didn't know was that his forgotten coffee had just made someone's difficult day a little bit better. That somewhere in the city, a woman was smiling for the first time in weeks because of his carelessness. And what neither of them knew was that this wouldn't be the last time their lives intersected by accident, that the universe was already weaving their stories together, that sometimes the most important connections begin with simple human mistakes. But that realization was still days away. It happened again 3 days later. Isla was back at her corner table when, at exactly 2:47 in the afternoon, the barista appeared with another caramel macchiato. Isla started. "I know," the barista interrupted, grinning. "Another mobile order, never picked up. Same person, actually. Same drink." "Seriously? Either they're incredibly forgetful, or they're secretly your fairy godmother." The next day, it happened again. 2:47. Same drink. By day 4, Isla wasn't surprised anymore. She was waiting for it, glancing at her laptop clock as 2:45 approached, feeling something she hadn't felt in months: anticipation. "Okay, this is weird, right?" she asked the barista when the drink arrived. "Definitely weird. But like good weird, I guess." Isla examined the cup. No name, just a mobile order number. "Is there any way to figure out who's ordering these?" The barista hesitated. "Technically, it's against policy to share customer information. I just want to say thank you. Let them know someone's enjoying their forgotten coffee." The barista softened. "Tell you what, write a note. Next time they order, I'll make sure it gets attached to their receipt." "Would you really?" "Why not? I'm a sucker for cute mysteries." So Isla found herself pulling a napkin closer, pen hovering, feeling slightly ridiculous. "What do you say to a stranger who's been accidentally making your days better?" she wrote. "Thank you for the accidental coffee donations. They've saved me during a brutal work week. You have excellent taste." The grateful stranger in the corner. She handed it to the barista before she could change her mind. The barista promised to deliver her note. But what Isla didn't know was that the next day, her mysterious benefactor would actually be standing in that cafe, watching her. Now, I want you to pause for a second. Have you ever had a moment where a stranger's kindness arrived exactly when you needed it? Drop yes in the comments if you believe in these small miracles, because what happens next proves that sometimes the universe knows exactly what it's doing. The next day, Adrian Cross did something he rarely did. He walked into the cafe himself. "Mobile order for Adrian." The barista called. He stepped forward, and she handed him his receipt with something attached. A napkin, folded carefully. "What's this?" "A note from the person who's been drinking your abandoned orders." Adrian unfolded it slowly. "Read the words once. Then again. Thank you for the accidental coffee donations. They've saved me during a brutal work week. You have excellent taste." The grateful stranger in the corner. Someone had been drinking his coffee. All those orders he'd placed out of habit and forgotten. Someone had been there, benefiting from his carelessness. And they'd noticed. They'd cared enough to write. He smiled, not his practiced professional expression. A real smile. "She's here often?" he asked. "Every day. Corner table. Works like her life depends on it." Adrian looked. There she was, tucked in the corner. Dark hair in a messy bun. Oversized sweater. Glasses sliding down her nose as she typed. Completely absorbed. She was mouthing words, her brow furrowed, utterly unaware she was being watched. She looked tired, determined, like someone who understood what it meant to work until everything else faded, because stopping meant confronting the loneliness. He knew that feeling. He should leave, should take his coffee, and go to his meeting. Should forget about this like he forgot everything that didn't impact his bottom line. Instead, he pulled out his phone. He opened the app and ordered 2 drinks. Added a note. "Glad someone's enjoying them. Consider it a subscription. Same time tomorrow? Your accidental coffee fairy godmother." The barista grinned. "You know what you're doing, right?" "Not even a little bit," he admitted. 5 minutes later, Isla's coffee appeared with a second cup, and his note. She read it 3 times, her smile growing wider. For the first time in weeks, that smile didn't fade. She had no idea that the person behind those notes was watching her smile and feeling something he hadn't felt in years: hope. The coffee deliveries became a ritual. Every day at 2:47, a caramel macchiato appeared at Isla's table. Sometimes with a note, sometimes just a drink, but always there, always on time. She started leaving notes back. "You're going to bankrupt yourself buying coffee for strangers." His reply came the next day. "I can afford it. Can you afford not to take a break?" "Touché. But seriously, why?" "Why not?" "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." The notes grew longer, more personal. She told him she was a freelance financial consultant trying to build a client base, that she worked from cafes because her apartment felt too small for her ambitions, that she drank cheap coffee because good coffee was a luxury she couldn't justify. He told her he worked too much, that success felt hollow sometimes. That buying coffee for a stranger was the most normal thing he'd done in months. Neither shared their real name. It was part of the game, the mystery, the safe distance that made honesty easier. 3 weeks in, his note read, "What's the spreadsheet you're always glaring at?" She wrote back, "Client budget projection. Numbers that refuse to cooperate." The next day, her coffee came with something different. What if you're looking at it wrong? Try restructuring the quarterly breakdown by expense category rather than timeline. Isla stared at the note, then at her spreadsheet. She tried a suggestion. The numbers clicked into place. "Oh my God," she whispered. Her next note, "Are you some kind of financial wizard?" "Just someone who stared at enough bad spreadsheets to recognize the patterns." "You're welcome. I owe you more than coffee now." His response arrived the following day. "You owe me nothing, but I'd take conversation over notes." Her heart did something strange. The anonymous notes were safe, comfortable, real in a way that felt impossible to risk. But now, one of them was ready to step out from behind the mystery. The question was, would the truth bring them closer or destroy the one genuine thing either of them had? Now, if you're like me, you're probably thinking this is too perfect, right? Mystery, romance, a connection that feels real. But here's what makes this story different. Neither of them knew that the hardest part wasn't finding each other. It was deciding if they were brave enough to stay. Before we go any further, if you're rooting for them to meet, if you believe real connection is worth the risk, hit that subscribe button, because you're going to want to see what happens when these two worlds finally collide. And trust me, trolls who think this kind of kindness doesn't exist, they're about to be proven wrong. Isla sat at her corner table, staring at a blank napkin, her pen hovering over it. This was crazy. She knew it was crazy. Meeting a complete stranger based on nothing but coffee deliveries and handwritten notes. But the truth was, those notes had become the best part of her day. The person behind them felt more real to her than most people she actually knew. She took a breath and wrote, "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., same table. No more hiding." She handed it to barista and immediately wanted to take it back. But it was done. The invitation was out there. Now all she could do was wait and wonder if she'd just ruined everything. That evening, across town, Adrian read her note in the back of his car. His driver was taking him home from yet another late meeting. The city lights streaming past the window. He read the words 3 times. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., same table. No more hiding. His carefully controlled world tilted slightly. He should cancel. Should send a polite note declining. Should let this remain a pleasant anomaly in his structured life. A brief moment of connection that stayed safely anonymous. Meeting her in person meant risk. It meant vulnerability. It meant stepping out from behind the protective distance they'd built. But it also meant possibility. He pulled out his phone and started clearing his schedule for the next afternoon. The next day felt endless for both of them. Isla woke up at 6, too anxious to sleep. She changed her outfit 3 times before settling on the first one, jeans and a sweater. Nothing fancy. Just herself. If this person was going to meet her, they needed to meet the real her, not some polished version she couldn't maintain. She arrived at the café at 2:30. 30 minutes early because waiting at home would have driven her completely insane. She ordered her usual cheap coffee, sat at her usual table, and tried to work. The cursor blinked mockingly at her. She'd read the same sentence 14 times. Adrian sat through a morning meeting barely hearing a word. His CFO was presenting quarterly projections, and all Adrian could think about was 3 o'clock. His assistant noticed him checking his watch repeatedly, but wisely said nothing. At 2:47, right on schedule, the barista brought Isla her caramel macchiato. "He's very consistent, whoever he is," she said with a knowing smile. "I'm about to find out," Isla replied, her voice barely steady. 3 o'clock approached. Isla's leg bounced under the table. Her heart hammered. Maybe he changed his mind. Maybe this was too weird. Maybe she'd been foolish to think. The cafe door opened. Isla was about to meet a man she thought was just like her, someone working too hard, struggling with loneliness, searching for connection. She had no idea she was about to come face to face with Adrian Cross, CEO, billionaire, and one of the most powerful men in the city. The question was, would the truth shatter everything they'd built? A man walked in, and the energy in the cafe shifted. He was tall, wearing dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled his elbows, hair slightly disheveled. He scanned the room with careful precision, and when his eyes landed on her corner table, he walked straight toward her. Isla's breath caught. Up close, he was striking. Sharp jawline, tired eyes, an expression equal parts confident and uncertain. "Isla," he asked. She blinked. "How did you know my—" Then she remembered. She'd signed one of her notes. "Right. Yes, that's me. Adrian." He extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm, warm. The coffee fairy godmother, in extremely non-magical flesh. He gestured to the seat. "May I?" "Please." He sat. For a moment, they just looked at each other. All the easy banter from notes suddenly felt impossible to recreate in person. "This is weird, right?" she said. "So weird," he agreed. "Good weird, though. Good weird." The barista appeared with another caramel macchiato. "On the house. For courage." Adrian laughed, and it transformed his face. "I think I need it." After the barista left, Isla studied him. "I looked you up. After you helped with my spreadsheet, I got curious." Something shifted behind his eyes. "And Adrian Cross, CEO of Crosstech Innovations. Net worth somewhere between obscene and unreal." She paused. "You're not just some guy who's good with spreadsheets. Does it matter?" "I don't know yet," she said honestly. "My first instinct is to be intimidated or suspicious. Wonder why a billionaire is buying coffee for some freelancer struggling to make rent. And your second instinct? To remember that your notes never felt like they came from someone trying to impress me. They felt like they came from someone who was lonely. The word hung between them, sharp and true. Adrian looked down. "I have 5,000 employees. I attend dozens of events every month. I'm surrounded by people constantly. But they're not really with you. They're with your title." "Exactly." He met her eyes. "Until I started writing to you. You didn't know who I was. Didn't want anything from me. You just existed in your corner with your spreadsheets and your determination. And somehow, that was enough to make me feel human again." Isla's chest tightened. "I'm not sure what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything. I'm not asking for anything." "Then why meet me? Why risk ruining the mystery?" Adrian leaned forward. "Because mystery is safe. But real connection requires risk. And I haven't wanted to risk anything in a very long time. Until you—" The cafe noise faded. Someone's phone rang. The espresso machine hissed. But in their corner, there was only silence and possibility. "I'm scared," Isla admitted. "Of what?" "That this is a fairy tale. That tomorrow you'll wake up and remember you're a billionaire and I'm just me. What if I'm scared of the opposite?" Adrian asked quietly. "That you'll only see the money and the title. That the person who wrote me honest notes will disappear." Isla really looked at him. At the tiredness around his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he held his coffee like an anchor. "I don't want your money," she said. "I know. I don't want access to your world. I know. I just want more of what we had. The honesty. The connection. That's all I want, too." She took a breath. "Okay, then let's make a deal. We start over. Not as billionaire and struggling freelancer. Just as Adrian and Isla. Two people trying to figure out if this is real. No secrets," he asked. "No secrets. But no expectations either. We take this slow and promise to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable." Adrian extended his hand. "Deal." She shook it, and neither let go right away. They'd crossed a line from anonymous to real. But that was the easy part. Now came navigating two completely different worlds. Could a woman eating ramen 4 nights a week and a billionaire seal actually build something real? The answer would surprise even them. "Now here's where I need you to do something. If you believe connection can happen anyway, comment, love sees no labels. Because what these two are about to prove is that the biggest distance isn't between a penthouse and a small apartment. It's between a closed heart and an open one. The weeks that followed were a careful negotiation of two very different worlds. Isla met him at the cafe every few days. Sometimes he was in a suit, fresh from a meeting. Sometimes in jeans, deliberately casual, trying to blend into her world. He never asked her to come to his office, never suggested expensive restaurants or exclusive venues. He followed her lead, let her set the pace. They took walks through her neighborhood, streets he'd never visited despite living in the same city his whole life. She showed him her favorite food truck, the bookstore where she bought secondhand paperbacks, the park where she ran when she couldn't afford the gym. "This is nice," he said one evening as they sat on a bench, sharing tacos from a cart that definitely didn't pass health inspections but made the best al pastor in the city. "Better than Michelin star restaurants," she teased. "Different, more real." She studied him. "Do you ever get tired of it? The performance. Every single day." "Then why do it?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "Because I built my company from nothing. Literally nothing. I was the kid whose electricity got shut off, who wore the same 3 outfits to school, who understood poverty in a way people don't talk about at dinner parties." Isla's hand found his. "I didn't know that." Nobody does. The media likes the brilliant young CEO narrative better than the desperate kid who got lucky story. He looked at their joined hands. Success was supposed to make me feel safe. Instead, it just made me feel isolated. Until forgotten coffee order. "Until you," he corrected. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence as the sun set behind the buildings. But not everything was perfect. The cracks started to show in small ways. He canceled dinner because a crisis erupted at work. She understood, but it stung. Then she mentioned a dream of starting her own consulting firm, and he immediately offered to fund it. They argued for the first time when she refused. "I'm not your charity project," she said, her voice tight with hurt. "That's not what this is," Adrian protested. "Then what is it? You throwing money at my problems to make yourself feel useful?" "I'm trying to help you achieve your dreams." "I don't want your money, Adrian. I want to build something myself. Don't you understand that?" He did understand. Too well. That's what frustrated him most. She sounded exactly like him at 22, proud and stubborn, and refusing help even when she desperately needed it. But hearing her say it stung in ways he hadn't expected. They didn't talk for 3 days. The silence was worse than any argument. Isla worked from home, unable to face the cafe where everything had started. Adrian threw himself into work, staying at the office until midnight, trying to outrun the hollow feeling in his chest. It was Isla who broke first. On the 3rd day, she showed up at the cafe at exactly 2:47, the time when her coffee always arrived. Their time, their ritual. He was already there, waiting at her corner table, 2 caramel macchiatos in front of him. She stopped in her tracks, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "I'm sorry, too," he replied immediately. "I know you were trying to help, but I need to do this my way, at my pace. Even if it's slower, even if it's harder." "I get that," Adrian said. I'm used to solving problems. And when I care about someone, my instinct is to remove obstacles from their path. But sometimes the obstacles are part of the journey." He nodded slowly. "I'm learning that. I promise to be better at offering support without trying to take over. And I promise to remember that accepting help doesn't make me weak." They met in the middle, learning each other's boundaries, figuring out how to exist in 2 different realities without losing themselves. 3 months after their first meeting, Adrian invited her to an event, not a gala, but a product launch for a new accessibility feature his company had developed. "You don't have to come," he said carefully. "I know my world isn't comfortable for you, but it's part of your life," Isla replied. "And if this is going to work, I need to understand all of you, not just a version that buys me coffee." So she went. The venue was sleek, modern, filled with tech journalists and industry people who moved through the space with the easy confidence of those who belonged. Isla wore a simple black dress she bought on sale and immediately felt underdressed. Everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. But Adrian never left her side. He introduced her to everyone the same way, his hand steady at the small of her back. "This is Isla. She keeps me honest. Not my girlfriend. Not someone I'm seeing. Just Isla," with a description that somehow meant more than any label could. She watched him work the room, saw the way people deferred to him, how conversations shifted when he approached. This was his world. Power and influence in carefully measured words. But every few minutes, his eyes would find hers across the room, and he'd smile. Not the polished CEO smile, but the real one, the one she'd first seen when he read her note. Near the end of the evening, a journalist from a major tech publication approached them. "Adrian, congratulations on the launch. Can I ask, how did you two meet?" Isla and Adrian exchanged a glance. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the professional instinct to deflect, to keep his personal life private. Then he grinned. "She stole my coffee." "I did not steal it," Isla protested, laughing despite herself. "You abandoned it." "Semantics." The journalist looked confused but charmed. "I'm going to need that story." Adrian told it. The forgotten mobile orders, the anonymous notes, the cafe meetings. He left out some details, the loneliness, the vulnerability, the parts that were just theirs. But he told enough. Enough to make it clear that this wasn't just some casual relationship, that Isla mattered. The story made it into 3 different tech blogs the next day, each one with some variation of the same headline. "Tech CEO finds love through abandoned coffee orders." "You're trending," Isla informed him the next morning, showing him her phone as they sat in their cafe. Because it was officially theirs now, the place where everything started. "Please tell me it's not embarrassing." "People think it's adorable. They're calling it the most human thing you've ever done." Adrian groaned. "My board is going to have opinions." "Do you care?" He looked at her, really looked, and realized he didn't. For the first time in his carefully constructed life, other people's opinions mattered less than this moment, this woman, this real thing they were building together. "Not even a little bit," he said. She kissed him, and it tasted like caramel macchiatos and new beginnings and the courage it takes to let the world see who you really are. The barista walked by their table and grinned. "You two are disgustingly cute. Just so you know." "We know," they said in unison, and everyone laughed. 6 months after the first abandoned coffee, Isla sat in their cafe. Because it was officially theirs now, the place where everything started. Her laptop was open, but she wasn't working. She was watching Adrian across the room, chatting with a barista, laughing at something, completely at ease. This was the man she'd come to know. Not the billionaire CEO from the headlines, but the person who forgot his coffee, who wrote honest notes on napkins, who chose her world over his own again and again. He caught her staring and walked over, 2 drinks in hand. "Caramel macchiato for the lady," he said, setting it down with a familiar smile. "You know I could buy my own coffee now, right? My business is actually doing well." "I know, but some traditions are sacred." She smiled, warm flooding her chest, and pulled him down for a kiss. "Thank you. For the coffee, for everything. I should be thanking you. You gave me my life back." "Pretty sure you did that yourself." "We did it together," he corrected. The barista walked by their table and grinned. "You two are disgustingly cute. Just so you know." "We know," they said in unison. That evening, they walked through her neighborhood, the one he'd learned to love over the past 6 months. The streets that had once been foreign to him now felt more like home than his penthouse ever did. The taco cart guy knew their order. The bookstore owner saved paperbacks she thought Isla would like. This was real life. He'd discovered, not the performance of success, but the quiet joy of belonging. "I have something to tell you," Adrian said, his voice suddenly serious. Isla's heart jumped. "Should I be nervous?" "Depends on how you feel about major life decisions." "Adrian, you're scaring me." He stopped walking, right there on the sidewalk as people moved around them, and took both her hands in his. "I'm stepping down as CEO." She stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "What?" "Not immediately. There'll be a 6-month transition. But I'm moving into a chairman role, letting someone else run the day-to-day operations." "Why?" The word came out barely above a whisper. Because you were right. He squeezed her hands, his eyes searching hers. The obstacles are part of the journey, and I've been so focused on reaching the destination, on building and protecting and succeeding, that I forgot to actually live my life. I forgot what it feels like to just breathe. Adrian, I want time, Isla. Time to travel without checking my phone every 5 minutes. Time to cook a meal and read a book and figure out who Adrian Cross is when he's not defined by his company. His voice dropped lower, more vulnerable. Time to be with you, really be with you, not stolen moments between meetings, but actual time. And who is he? She asked softly. Who is Adrian Cross without the company? I'm hoping to find out, preferably with you by my side. Tears pricked her eyes, blurring his face. That's a big change. I know, and I'm terrified, he admitted, but staying the same, staying in that life, that performance, that endless cycle, that's more terrifying. You taught me that. She pulled him into a hug, holding tight, feeling his heart beating against hers. I'm proud of you. Yeah. They stood there on the sidewalk, two people choosing each other on purpose. Adrian built an empire trying to feel safe. Isla built walls trying to stay independent. But love asked them both for something harder than success or self-reliance. It asked them to be vulnerable, to choose connection over control, to believe that together was stronger than alone. And standing there, wrapped in each other's arms as the city moved around them, they both said yes. Later that night, back at her apartment, the one he'd spent more nights in his own place, they sat on her worn couch, sharing cheap takeout because she insisted it tasted better than anything expensive. The apartment was small, nothing like the luxury he could afford, but it had become his favorite place in the world. This was where they were just Adrian and Isla. No titles, no expectations, just two people choosing each other every single day. Can I ask you something? Isla said, setting down her container. Anything. That first coffee. The one I found at my table. Did you really forget to pick it up, or was it somehow intentional? Adrian grinned, that real smile she'd come to love. I really forgot. I'm genuinely that scattered. I was in back-to-back meetings, ordered out of habit, and completely forgot it existed. But you kept forgetting on purpose after that. Once I knew someone was enjoying them, once I realized those forgotten orders were making someone's day better. He pulled her closer. Absolutely. Best mistake I ever made. She curled into his side, fitting perfectly against him. Mine, too. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people have learned each other's rhythms. Outside her window, the city hummed with its endless noise, car horns and distant sirens, and the constant movement of millions of people living their separate lives. Out there, right now, countless people were passing each other on sidewalks, sitting in adjacent cafe tables, standing in the same elevators. Millions of near misses and almosts, lives that came close to intersecting but never quite touched. Most of those moments meant nothing. Most of those potential connections dissolved before they ever had a chance to become something real. But sometimes, the universe got exactly right. Sometimes a forgotten coffee order found precisely the person who needed it most. Sometimes two people, both drowning in loneliness despite being surrounded by crowds, reached out at exactly the same moment. Sometimes an accident became the most important thing that ever happened, and two lonely people discovered that connection wasn't some magical thing that only happened to other people, to the lucky ones, to those who seemed to have it all figured out. It was something you built, one honest moment at a time, one vulnerable conversation at a time, one choice to show up, to be real, to risk your heart even when it terrified you. One abandoned order at a time, one choice at a time. In Isla's small apartment, with takeout containers on the coffee table and the city lights filtering through her curtains, two people who'd found each other by accident chose each other on purpose. And that choice, that daily decision to be brave, to be honest, to believe in something bigger than their individual fears, that made all the difference. So here's my question for you. Do you believe that kindness creates miracles? That forgotten coffee order can change two lives? If this story reminded you that genuine connection still exists in our world, do 3 things for me. First, hit that like button. Not for me, but to tell the algorithm that stories about real kindness matter. That we need more of this, not less. Second, subscribe, because I share stories like this every week. Stories that prove humanity is still beautiful, that love still conquers loneliness, and that sometimes the best things in life really do arrive by mistake. Third, and this is the most important one, share this with someone who needs to believe in connection again. Maybe someone who's working too hard, feeling too alone, or wondering if genuine love still exists. Because this story isn't just about Isla and Adrian. It's about all of us looking for our own version of that abandoned coffee order, that moment when life reminds us we're not meant to do this alone. If you believe in standing up for kindness in a world that can feel cold and transactional, comment connection over perfection. Show the trolls and cynics that we still believe in this. That love stories like this matter. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best things in life are the ones that arrive by mistake. Stay open, stay kind, and never underestimate the power of a small gesture. I'll see you in the next story.